Question 2, please.
Mr. Speaker, from January 2020 to July 2022, agencies adopted emergency procurement procedures to directly contract with suppliers instead of going through open sourcing. I hope the member understands why such an arrangement was necessary during the COVID-19 pandemic for the government to respond swiftly to the crisis. Sir, of the 72.3 billion COVID-19 pandemic-related spending, about 90% was not for procurement of goods and services, but to provide support for families, workers, and businesses. Of the 8 billion of procurement, none were made without a code, and about 1.1 billion was made with a single code for the purchase of testing and swabbing services, as well as food and medical supplies. For those procurement contracts that were entered into with single codes, no procurement was made to related parties, which refers to companies that are directly owned by the ministries or statutory boards. Government agencies are expected to ensure proper and impartial evaluation is done and seek the necessary approvals for all procurement, including those done under emergency procurement procedures. All procurement transactions are further subjected to independent checks by agencies, internal audit teams, and the Auditor General's Office.
I thank the SMS for his reply. Does the total COVID-19 spending of $72.3 billion include the amounts spent by Temasek Holdings, Temasek Foundation, and other Temasek-linked companies for their COVID-19 activity? That's my first question. And secondly, the scope of the review requested by MOF only covers whether the transactions were bona fide and that there were no erroneous payments. Will MOF and or the AGO also be reviewing potential wastage in the procurement process and ascertaining whether value for money procurement approach was adhered to in all instances? Thank you.
So the first question from Mr. Giam, yes, there were contracts that were awarded to Temasek-linked companies. I think some of these were also previously discussed in this House. The second question on whether the audits would cover not just to make sure that the transactions were done in accordance with proper procedures, right? I think that was what he was saying. But also to ensure value for money. Yes, I think the audits, both the AGO's audit and also the internal audits, will look to cover both areas.
Sorry, on the first question, I just want to clarify. What I was asking for is not the contracts that were awarded to Temasek companies, but the expenses incurred by Temasek in terms of, let's say, giving out the face mask and various oximeters and all that. Was that part of the 72.3 billion, or was that something that Temasek incurred on their own?
So I think we were talking about the government spending. So what I cited earlier in terms of the 72 billion, I mentioned in my reply that the bulk of it, 90%, are actually not meant for procurement, but as support, job support scheme, the COVID relief grants, and so on and so forth, that we give to families, workers, and businesses. The 8 billion, I've given Mr. Giam a breakdown of which are without codes, which are single codes, and this is government expenditure. This is from the government. But if I turn to, I think what is Mr. Giam's probably larger question, It's whether you think that the Temasek companies should be included in this overall government expenditure. No? Okay. All right. Thank you.